Time for another Greek lesson. Let's take a look now at yet another verb tense, the future tense. We've met the present tense and the imperfect tense, and now we need to find the future tense. The good news is that the future tense is going to use the same primary, active, or middle passive endings that you've used in the present tense. So we're going to find out that the future is not very difficult at all. Now the passive is a little bit different. We'll wait until later to introduce that. But this is the third of the 6 tenses to be introduced, and again it already uses endings you've already met. Please do remember that I have a full course at pottersschool.org and at our seminary, alts.edu. And there's always something good happening at Wittenberg Door Campus Ministry, Wittenberg Como for Columbia, Missouri.com. Now the future tense is used for events yet to happen, just as we would use it in English. This is no different at all from what we see in English. The future tense is how I'll refer to what I will do this afternoon, or what I will find in the mail later. It's used for what has not yet happened. In Greek, it may imply ongoing action, like the present or the imperfect tense does, a linear kind of action, or it may imply a point of action. This afternoon, the phone will ring. I'm expecting a phone call once. In Greek, the future tense uses the primary, active, and middle endings. Let's remember what those are. The active endings, you take a moment and say your primary active endings to yourself. And I hope you said o, eis, e, amen, ete, ousi. And then we can say our primary, middle, or passive endings to ourselves. And I hope we said omai, e, etai, ametha, estha, amtai. So we'll use the primary, active, and middle endings. Now, how are we going to tell the difference between the future tense and the present tense? There are 2 basic theories about that. Theory number 1, the future tense has a different verb stem. All right, granted, it probably does. You can document that theory a little bit. And if you memorize the present stem and the future stem, you will definitely not go wrong. You can say the future tense has a different verb stem, and both the present and the future tense use primary endings, and you're fine. Here's theory number 2, which I think you'll find easier. The future tense has a present verb stem, and it's normally followed by a sigma, which is the sign of the future tense. In English, we use a sign of the future tense, the helping verb will or shall. And in Greek, instead of using a helping verb, before the ending, you have a sign, which is a sigma. That will normally be what changes about the stem. And so I think if you think of the sigma as the sign of the future tense, you will do very, very well with it. That's the way I would suggest going about it. Now in general, how does that stem change, or how does the sigma end up appearing? Because you will not always see a sigma after the present stem and before the primary ending. The sigma might cause a consonant change. For instance, if you have a stem ending in, say, a kappa, and you immediately follow it by a sigma, you'll have the idea of k, s, k, s, ks. Oh, that you aren't going to see a kappa or a sigma, you're going to see a xi. And that's a very regular way for the stem to change. Now here are some regular spelling changes that happen. If you have the letter P, beta, or phi, and that is immediately followed by a sigma, the two letters together will become a psi. P, beta, phi makes a psi. Next, if you have a kappa, gamma, or chi, followed by a sigma, you'll end up with a xi. P, beta, phi makes a psi. Kappa, gamma, chi makes a xi. And then the other common stem change, if you have a tau, delta, theta, zeta, plus sigma, as a college friend of mine from South Africa said, you have to have the accent, tau, delta, theta, zeta, see you later. The letter before the sigma disappears altogether. So those are common stem changes. That's the way it will normally work for you. And again, this is what it looks like when you take a present stem and you add a sigma. So we can accommodate both theories of how the stem changes. Our memorization, let's take a look at this. Again, the future active and middle indicative. Notice you've got your present stem, because I really want you to think of it this way. Got your present stem, and then you have a sigma, and then you have a primary ending. There you go. So, primary endings, o, ace, a, amen, eta, usi, or omai, a, atai, amatha, estha, antai. See the sigma. And again, we just have the active and the middle. We're not getting the passive yet, because that will be just a little bit different. Now, that's not so difficult. I do need to warn you about something that will happen though. Beware, oh beware. Some verbs might be deponent in one tense and not in another tense. For instance, the verb bino is deponent in the future tense, but it isn't deponent in other tenses. Now, that will be annoying. But you'll see, for instance, in your vocabulary list or in your lexicon, it'll say something like, bino, basomai, I go. All right, and so you'll see the present is bino and the future is basomai. The future must be deponent. It has passive form but active meaning. And the vocabulary list or lexicon will always tell you that detail about the words, or else you have a word list that you don't want to have. The future tense also is one of the forms of a verb which is considered a principal part. Make sure you memorize the future and the present tense of each verb. All right, well, thanks a lot. Have a great time doing Greek. We'll see you next time.